we have $1 million Bitcoin easy. I could easily see $1 million Bitcoin, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised. There is infinite dollars. A home is no longer a home. A home is your most important investment. That's a downstream effect of broken money. Like, I was in pretty decent shape, but there were a number of things that really stood out that I was deficient in. Trying to eat healthy, my interpretation of healthy, but I found I was hitting all these plateaus. Those plateaus that I was hitting were because my body wasn't prepared to be. The number of dollars has grown faster than the speed at which we've gotten good at building stuff. I usually throw out a pretty simple formula. Number one is provide value to others. Figure out how you best can provide value to others. Number two is spend less than you earn. And number three is save in a money nobody can print.
Well, I am so excited for this episode. We have Ben Perrin, host of BTC Sessions, joining us today. He's the world's most trusted Bitcoin-only educator. Ben has led a team that taught tens of millions around the globe through tutorials, coaching, and talks at international conferences, empowering people to self-secure their Bitcoin and rebuilding local circular economies through community initiatives and international projects such as the Human Rights Foundation. He also happens to be passionate about his health. He's been a part of the FitScript program for over 6 months. And Ben, welcome to the show.
Hell yeah, man. Glad to be here. Excited to see you. Excited to see you both, and can't wait for the combo.
So, Ben, this has come full circle. I don't know if you know this, but you taught me how to use a cold card. So you taught me how to use a cold card, and then you taught me how to air gap my cold card.
All complicated sounding things, but I mean, you got a hold of it. So that's great, man.
Now when I tell my friends, like, I don't even plug my cold card into my computer and it works, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
It's an interesting thing to try to get your head around how all of that's working. I mean, most people barely even understand what Bitcoin is, let alone all the intricacies of keeping it super secure with something like a cold card.
So you're a legend in the Bitcoin space. Hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube. Are you known as, like, do people come up to you and ask you, like, or come up to you and say, like, you're the tutorial guy? Like, are you the official tutorial guy?
I shy away from being anything official, but a lot of people have watched the tutorials. I think it's something like 17 million at this point, which is wild to think. And yeah, like, I think being at Bitcoin related events, one of the things that really makes those numbers have meaning instead of just digits on a screen is when somebody comes up and says something like what you just said. Oh, I learned how to be self-sovereign and secure my wealth through one of the videos. Or somebody will come up, oh, I'm running a node, or oh, I'm doing this, that, or the other thing. But they've taken personal responsibility for the fruits of their labor and learned to secure it through the videos. So yeah, I mean, I do get, when I'm at Bitcoin events, a good chunk of people coming up and saying hi and saying thanks for the videos. And, it does mean a lot. And so I always, I'm super stoked to talk to everybody about what they're doing and how they're securing their Bitcoin and all that.
I love it. We're going to talk a lot about health. We're going to talk a lot about wealth. I know you got a lot of questions on the Bitcoin side of things as a Bitcoin maxi yourself. I think one of the questions that I have for you, Ben, is around your health. We started working together 6 months ago. When did it click that you really needed to focus on your health just as much as your wealth and your wealth sovereignty?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been we'll say a relatively active person. I tried to keep on top of my health I didn't really start working out until, maybe after high school somewhat regularly. but it was easy to fall off the wagon. And so I like a lot of people, I'd have stints. Oh, it's New Year's. I'll start my new regime, and then you kind of fall off and you maybe come back to it. So I would kind of flip between things. The last few years I've been a lot more consistent because I did notice that, as you get older, if you don't keep up with things, then things start to fall apart a lot quicker. It's not like your 20s where you can just eat garbage and hit the gym once in a while and still be looking fine. But, I just turned 40. And so things are a bit different now, and you really do have to pay attention to it. And so I had gotten by mostly just kind of guessing what to do and throwing together some programs, maybe doing some videos, stuff like that, and trying to eat healthy, my interpretation of healthy. But I found I was hitting all these plateaus, and like I would only get so far, and then, I would see no further improvements, and then I would kind of fall off the wagon and fall back into where I was. And then, it was just oscillating between kind of in shape and out of shape. And so, when I kind of became aware of you and what you were doing, there was an interesting tagline that you had that really resonated with me. And it was, don't guess, test.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect parallel to don't trust, verify, as the ethos in Bitcoin, right? And so, when you were talking to me, you were saying, listen, we're going to go through all this stuff, and we're going to actually figure out what is going on with your body and what would help you get past those plateaus and be able to achieve more. And that was that don't guess test, really stuck out to me. And I was like, yeah, I should probably, I think it's time to actually measure and figure out what I'm doing instead of just, flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah. Which I think, Brandon, you can relate, right? I think a lot of the population is guessing. The majority of the population is guessing. And I think that leads to a lack of certainty, right? And when you have a lack of certainty in anything, you have lack of clarity. When you have lack of clarity, right, you don't have the exact path that you need. And so motivation kind of is more fleeting, and you can't really get the momentum because at the end of it, right, in the back of your mind, you're like, but am I supposed to be eating like this? Am I supposed to be taking these supplements? Is this the way that I'm supposed to be lifting? And so in the back of your mind, like you're just second guessing yourself. And then of course, when you're not doing it extremely precision and custom to you, the results, they're not as substantial, right? And so you're looking in the mirror, you put all this effort in, and maybe you see just a little bit of something. You're like, man, all this work for just a little bit of progress.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Ben, what was your like big eye-opening moment? Because sitting here with Mike and having some of these conversations, that was one of the biggest things for me. Which we in the Bitcoin space, we've kind of gotten to the carnivore, kind of breaking down that food pyramid, how it's just essentially a load of crap. And then we get to this one thing, and I think, all right, a lot of people in the Bitcoin space equate it to carnivore. Eat red meat, it's good for you. But one of the eye-opening conversations I had last week with Paul and Mike here was that one size doesn't necessarily fit all. So I'm curious with your development in this fit script, how you've gotten to that point, and what was kind of some that eye-opening moment for you.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple things. Pre-fit script in terms of food, and just kind of down the Bitcoin ethos road. There's a book written by Matthew Leshak called Fiat Food, and it basically kind of outlines a lot of the perversions that happened with the food industry in America and elsewhere, but how it's some of it was downstream of the broken money system and other factors, and there are multiple times reading that book that I'm just like screaming at the pages, and I'm like going out to my wife, being like, "You're never gonna believe this is real. It sounds crazy, but it's real." I like fact checked it myself, and it's crazy. But I came out of that book with a different perspective. Before, when I would start eating like crap, like I'd fall off the wagon, I would, rightfully say, I fell off and, whatever. And it is kind of, well, I guess that's me. But that reading that book gave me this nagging thing in the back of my mind every time I would, get a craving for garbage food and be like, oh, they got me. They got like, it's like an insidious, like, we want to hook you on this garbage. And I really internalized that. And I had this like knee jerk kind of, no, I want to fight against this. I want to use my own willpower to make changes, but I also need to figure out what is going to be good for me. And so the second part of this, in answer to your question, one of the eye-opening things was, I got my blood test done, and then I sat down and I had my hour-long kind of consult talking about what my results were. It's just, my report is 74 pages. All the details. And I'm like, I was in pretty decent shape, but there were a number of things that really stood out that I was deficient in and that needed addressing. And part of it was just like, part of the plateaus I was hitting, I wasn't properly metabolizing like the protein that I was taking in. There were things that were deficient where, like, just in adjusting with some supplements, I could, actually take advantage of when I have good food, that my body would actually utilize it properly, and then pair that with training. And so it's just all these little tweaks where those plateaus that I was hitting were because my body wasn't prepared to be kind of taking in the fuel that I was giving it and utilize it properly, and pairing that with the training, I would just kind of hit a wall and then I couldn't do any more. And this kind of, especially like this, when I first started, and, just some basic supplements that I was having. And I think it was the 3-month mark, I shared a before and after, and it was crazy. Like the just on some supplements, for the first 3 months, the amount of, how much I was able to do in that short of a period of time. I'm sure maybe you guys will throw it in the episode or something, but my first 3 months were crazy.
It was insane.
Yeah.
That transformation was insane. We will put it up. One of the things that you said, right, was your body's inability to properly digest and utilize the proteins and things that you're eating. And so, Brandon, like, think about trying to guess your way through that. It would be impossible, right? Because what Americans are doing is they're going to their vitamin shop or they're going to their GNC and they're saying, hey, like, what should I take? And that person doesn't know anything about you, the individual. And so they're saying, I think you need a multivitamin, and I think you need a little bit of protein, I think you need this. But if your body is not metabolizing those things properly, you just wasted effectively, a couple $100.
Yeah. I mean, I've 100% gone through that. I did like a little transformation thing at a gym that I went to. So this kind of resonates with me because they were like, oh, take all these supplements, do whatever. Like after 6 weeks, I looked a little bit different. But I remember walking my dog one morning. I got up early to go to the gym. I think it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. So nothing in the stomach. They're like, oh, fast till noon, work out early, take all these things. And I ate it and I literally threw up on the walk there because my body just rejected it. And I'm like, I was going to the coach. I was like, dude, I don't think that this is working the way that it should be because look what just happened. Like, here's the results. And they're like, oh, no, you should be fine. I'm like, obviously not, right? It didn't work for my body the way that maybe it would work for somebody else's body. So I really resonate with the whole don't guess, test, because that, right there is exactly like in the Bitcoin ethos, don't trust, verify. So, seeing the fiat food kind of connection there and the degradation of the money parallels with all of this. Obviously, you're posting the thirst traps now for your 95% male audience there, Ben. But
I love the comments too. I love the comments. They're so good. And every once in a while, like, yeah, every once in a while he'll get trolled, and I'll step in as his, sort of bodyguard. Like, hey, don't talk about Ben that way.
I always like the ones where they shrink your head too. They make your body.
There's one somebody took like a post-workout photo, and it was like, Bitcoiners, if you don't teach your wife how to run a node, he will. So bad. But yeah, I mean, I find it funny. Also, I mean, the internet's the internet. If somebody's legitimately making fun, if my hair is any indication, I don't care what people think of me.
I fucking love your hair. It's not real, Ben. I mean, I'm trying to tell you, I go to bat for you, say it's natural like that, right?
So a lot of my followers are on the health side, and they haven't been orange pilled necessarily. I know there's some. I want to do our best on this show to orange pill as many of those people as possible. We're going to come back to, because I've got your in-body results, which you're at the 6-month mark. So we've got a lot to talk about with regards to your health. But I want to really talk Bitcoin for a minute here. I think, what would you say to somebody who hasn't done the research, who hasn't read the Bitcoin Standard, who hasn't watched any Michael Saylor? What are, a couple of pieces of content that these people could consume to like start their path down the Bitcoin rabbit hole?
Yeah. So I would say a super accessible book by one of my favorite people in Bitcoin that isn't even really a Bitcoin book, other than kind of near the tail end. It gets mentioned as a possible solution when he was writing it. And now he's a full-blown just Bitcoiner, living the life, walking the walk, talking the talk. Is The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth.
Okay.
And the reason I mentioned this book is because it addresses the problem first. It talks about, why does everything in society seem broken? What is actually going on? People they feel disenfranchised. They feel like their life is getting harder and everything's more expensive, and it's just the trust in our institutions is wavering. Everything seems to be breaking apart, and people have a hard time putting their finger on what is the root cause. People will point fingers at, the opposite political party or this politician or this, that, the other thing. But like the root cause of what is going on is very aptly described in that book. And the reason people feel like the light is getting harder is because it is. The key concept is that the natural state of things is deflation, meaning that everything should be getting cheaper, right? When you think of a house, for the same size house 50 years ago, well, it would have been negligible, the cost, compared to today. Now, is that because houses have gotten that much more difficult to build? Did we get worse at building houses over 5 decades? Absolutely not. We've gotten way more efficient at doing it. They can do it well. Things are more accessible. We have more resources at our fingertips always. And somehow houses are orders of magnitude more expensive. Why is that? It's because our dollars don't purchase as much. Because a single dollar won't buy you as much. And why is that? The number of dollars has grown faster than the speed at which we've gotten good at building stuff. And so in a world where we had the same amount of dollars all the time, everything would be cheaper. Houses would be cheaper. Your food, your groceries, trips, going on airplanes, fuel, all of it would always be cheaper, barring like sudden supply shortages and stuff like that. But we don't really have that. And so people don't realize that money itself is just a measuring stick for all of the stuff that exists, all of the products and goods and services that we can create. And money is just a measuring stick. And when you create more money, if it was evenly distributed based on what people had, you would notice no difference. So like if every person in the world added a zero to their bank account simultaneously, there would be a net zero impact on anybody. Just everything would have a zero added to the price. Nothing has changed. But when you add more money and you give it to a subset of elite people that get to decide where it gets distributed,
Yes.
those people get the new money first, and they get to buy things at the old prices because the economy hasn't adjusted. So then all of a sudden, people are able to buy up all these assets on the cheap. And then when the prices get adjusted for that, anybody that didn't have assets before or anybody that didn't get the printed money first gets screwed. And so when people are like, God, I agree, because I mean, your labor is a product too. And you don't get to set the price of your labor very well other than when you first say yes to getting a job. So if you're a blue collar worker, you take a job, you agree to however many dollars an hour. When you make that contract, you know at that time roughly how much an hour of your labor is going to be able to purchase you worth of stuff. But within a year, that contract is already null and void because they've created more money and the money that you're getting per hour is worth less. And so over the years, you're put in a position where you have to go to your boss and beg and plead to reattain the same standard of living that you had when you started the job.
Yep.
And so the system is, and I mean, the business owner is not at fault. Their job is to make the company as profitable as possible. And so like, you know, it's just the dynamic of whoever is able to set prices, whoever is able to like decide what their products are going to be sold for more easily is going to realize what's happening. Everything's more expensive. Okay, well, we gotta change your pricing. But as a blue collar worker, you're kind of on the lowest rung of that, and you don't get to decide that as quickly as everybody else. And so those people that get screwed the most, the middle class people with 9-to-5 jobs, those are the people now that are like, I can't afford a house and I can barely put food on the table. And I don't think I'll ever afford to have kids. Like this is wow.
And this is what the entire show is about, right? 90% of the population, 95% of the population is plugged into the matrix, right? They're being taxed and inflated to death, which also makes being healthy that much harder. Right? Like organic eggs did not become more scarce, but they went to like $10, $12 a dozen. I mean, that is absolutely nuts. So what's the escape hatch? What's the escape hatch here?
So I usually throw out a pretty simple formula. Number one is provide value to others. Figure out how you best can provide value to others. Number two is spend less than you earn. And number three is save in a money nobody can print. If you can do those three things consistently, it's like the golden ticket. It's in terms of wealth. And then with your saved money, with your newfound ethos, you then need to apply, because spending less than you earn is a time preference thing. So there's this concept of time preference. If you have a high time preference, it means you're placing a lot of importance on immediacy, getting what you want right away. You don't want to wait for anything. Low time preference means you're willing to put off, your satisfaction in exchange for something better later. So the act of saving in a money nobody can print, which will accrue purchasing power over time, that is a low time preference activity. You're putting off satisfaction for later so that you can grow and flourish in the future. And this time preference, of course, spills over into health as well. If you can put off the little things, if you can say, you know what, I don't need these Twinkies. I don't need, I'm not going to guzzle a bottle of whiskey tonight. I'm not, if you can say, listen, I'm going to forego this in the interest of leading a longer, healthier life and being able to be there for my family, my kids, and being able to partake in sports and outdoor activities and flourish. It spills over into both of those realms.
I think that's pretty well said. Hey.
Yeah. So Ben, I think a lot of people, when they hear Bitcoin, crypto, all of these different things, they get really, I guess, anxious about the whole thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's this funny internet money, but I think at the root of it, it's really simple. So what would be your explanation to Bitcoin or of Bitcoin to somebody who is maybe a little bit fearful? Because, I mean, you just lined it out there, right? It's like money somebody can't print. But what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it means that, if I guess in terms of a comparison of how people live today versus how somebody might live on a Bitcoin standard, it would be today you have to, be good enough at something to make enough money to be able to save some. But then you can't just save your money, right? You have extra dollars, you put those in the bank and you sit them there, and it's going to be worth less and less and less over time. You're never going to retire doing that. And so you need a second part-time or full-time job. You need to figure out how to become a professional investor. And so one, that is a brain drain on the individual, or a drain of resources because you need to pay somebody else to figure out where to invest your money just to get by. And two, it spikes up the cost of things that people are piling money into because their money doesn't hold value. So like if your dollars actually remained valuable or increased in value over time because we got better at making stuff and they're static, then you wouldn't have to go and invest in things. But because people know if I sit, the leftovers from my paycheck consistently in the bank and just leave them there, I'm going to be screwed. They then rush out and go, oh crap. Okay. So where am I going to put money? Well, a home is no longer a home. A home is your most important investment. And that's a downstream effect of broken money, is your house is now an investment instead of a utility for you and your family to live in. It's gone beyond that. And that's a forced thing. It's also why people own multiple properties now. Like, yes, real estate is a valuable thing to have, but it has become an investment vehicle in large part because the money is so broken. The stock market all-time highs. Why is that? Well, because people are forced to invest. You have to go into some fund. Why is Wall Street so big? Because every person in America must be putting stuff into funds that are managed by people to just figure out how to escape inflation. And so flip the script to a Bitcoin standard. You have a job, you do a good job, you get paid, you save some extra, and that's it. Your money just is worth a good amount, and it continues to be able to buy you more over time. It takes away all of the stress, all of the additional thinking. It allows you to just live your life and flourish and have your safety net there. And I guess the other part of it, of the anxiety you're talking about, is partly it's people worrying about price fluctuation. I mean, Bitcoin's been around for 16 years. It is volatile. It does go up and down. But when you look at it over a long time horizon, it is the best performing asset. I mean, Brandon, you know this better than me. It's the best performing asset of like all time. It's crazy. It's insane. And it continues to be, despite all of the detractors coming back time and time again. And I think people are realizing that, like when people, go and shit on it and say, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. Like you can't, anybody who's going to go and say that on the news nowadays, it's laughable at this point. And so then the other part would be technological. Well, how do I do it? I'm super worried about it. And what I'll say is, if you're an adult and you're able to take care of something like a passport, you're able to have like important documents and like put them somewhere safe. You have kids, that you are keeping alive and feeding. Those are all very important and difficult things that take personal responsibility.
Amen. Yeah.
And so if you can do those things in Bitcoin, what you need to be able to do is take 12 words and keep them safe. So if you can do all of those other things, if you're a caring parent that is allowing your kids to flourish, if you've ever kept important documents somewhere safe, you can own Bitcoin.
I got two things here. So if you're wondering how to take care of your Bitcoin, go to BTC Sessions on YouTube, right? He has got a plethora of amazing tutorials. That's where I learned. A couple of things, though. You said, if you can take care of kids, if you can, right, X, Y, and Z, you can do this. I say that all so much as an entrepreneur, right? Like, taking care of kids and being a father, a good father, is so much harder than anything you'll ever do, including storing, securing, and buying your Bitcoin. Now you drew an amazing parallel, time preference. Let's talk a little bit about time preference, because the point of this show as the decentralized human, right, is to bring health and wealth to the forefront. We talk about time preference, and time preference applies to both of them. And one of the things that I talk a lot about to my clients is trajectory, right? We are all on a trajectory. And oftentimes I pull up my arm, I'm like, you're on a trajectory right now, talking about their health. But it applies also to people's wealth and the debt they're accumulating and living below their means or above their means. Like, you are on a trajectory, both financially and healthily. Where are you at 5 years from today? Where are you at 10 years from today? What does 20 years look like? The rat race, right, and the matrix is here to keep you stuck. And the typical path, right, is broke, sick, bedridden, withering away. I'm sorry, you're going to have to get your affairs in order. You've only got 3 months to live. Like, that's just the reality. And the thing that makes me angry is that has become the norm. Like, that's what society is telling us is normal, Ben.
Yeah, it's really disheartening to see. And it always reminds me, like, when I get talking about time preference and the implications of it, it reminds me of shortly after I got married, I was backpacking with my wife, and we're in Thailand at one point. We're in northern Thailand, and we're in this kind of checking out this little monastery, and there's all these monks and stuff around. It was really, really cool. And there's this tree. It kind of looks like a bonsai tree, but like full size, like crazy, like way out to the side, long branches. And on it were these wooden planks that were nailed to different branches of the tree, all with kind of like important quotes and life lessons from the monks and from around the world. And one of the quotes that really stuck with me because it perfectly outlines the idea of time preference. And I don't have any tattoos, but if I ever did have a tattoo, it would be a picture of that tree with this quote. But the quote is, "Constant dripping wears away the stone." And so it's a perfect metaphor for both directions when it comes to time preference. If you feel like you're not getting anywhere, those constant tiny improvements eventually, just like tiny drips of water on a stone, can wear it away to nothing. But the same thing is true of your bad habits. Your bad habits accumulated over time can completely wear you down and destroy you. And so, yeah, you can make a lot of progress by doing the right things over time. You can lose everything by doing the wrong things over time. So constant dripping wears away the stone. I think perfect kind of comparison to the idea of time preference, and one that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I think simple daily disciplines, right? They're easy to do, but they're just as easy not to do, right? And you show me your habits, you show me your daily disciplines, and I'll tell you where you're going to be in 5 years. Show me your friends, show me your environment. I'll tell you again where you're going to be in 5 years. I mean, the writing is literally on the wall. And so this is an opportunity as you're watching this to really go into some introspection and just ask yourself, right, like, what kind of trajectory are you on? And is that what you want, right? Like, we don't think 5 years, we barely think 5 minutes ahead. We're so inundated by the technology. The Matrix has us totally, right, plugged into technology. And so what we lack is consciousness. And so if we take a step back and just some introspection here to say, hey, what do I want 5 years from now? What do I want 10 years from now? What do I want if I'm a father? What do I want for my kids 5, 10, 15 years from now? And am I showing up for them? Am I showing them what's possible every single day? Because health and wealth, without giving your kids the gift of health and wealth, right? They're going to have a hard fucking life. It's not getting easier out here.
Well, this is where I disagree a little bit with that, because I think that a lot of, I guess, people even my age, right, maybe even younger, I think that they get really anxious when you think about the future, right? They see, all right, I've got to work this job. This is why I work the 9 to 5 and I skate for the weekend, because that's as far as I want to look in the advance. I want to go binge drink on a Friday night, get wasted with my friends at the bar, do all these things. And this is what I live for, is this 4 or 5 days in advance. And they don't want to think about the 5, the 10-year future. But Ben, you said a really interesting quote, and I had this Bible verse. Now, of course, I'm blanking on the exact verse, but I think it was like Matthew 6:32 or 34, something like that. But essentially the premise of the quote is almost like the Pura Vida, but it's, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of itself, is basically the whole premise of it. And I think when you focus on living in the now, but not saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to let the negatives of what I'm doing right now worry about those tomorrow. I think that just doing those little daily habits, like you're lining out, Mike, where you line out those daily habits. All right, I can't buy a full Bitcoin today. I can't go and lift, bench 2 plates today. But those little incremental wins that you can focus on every single day, I think that's the beauty of it.
I think you're spot on with that. I agree with you. I don't think you obsess and worry about the future. I think you think about what's going on in the now and what that means for your future, to then bring it back and say, hey, I've got to adapt a little bit here, right? I'm spending too much money, or I'm not taking care of my health. I'm eating too much fast food. And I can relate to you because as an ex-addict, right? Someone who partied cocaine, alcohol for the better part of a decade, I was so numb. There was no future. I was so numb and so inundated by the alcohol and the women and that lifestyle that it was literally just live for today. In fact, there were probably mornings that I didn't even know if I was going to get up. That's how much I abused these substances.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always heard, like those type of activities, right? It basically steals from tomorrow, right? Like the joy in that time essentially takes from the next day, which I think is kind of eloquently put when you look at it in that sense. So I think, with that time preference, Ben, I thought that story was amazing. So how did that kind of, resonate when you started to go through the health journey, to kind of relate it back? Because, of course, you found Bitcoin first, and then you kind of went down the health journey. So I'm curious how those kind of intertwined with you and how you see the parallels.
Yeah. So, I mean, in relation to what was just discussed, like, obsessing over the future versus having, how would you phrase it? Having goals, having a trajectory, right? Saying, I would like to achieve the following thing, and then saying, what does that mean on a day-to-day basis? And then making that kind of your norm for day-to-day. And then, yes, you can focus on today, but where it's leading you. And this is, again, it all ties together with the don't guess, test, or, don't trust, verify, all of that. Where do you want to be? And break that down into smaller segments. Like, yeah, okay, day 1, you're not benching 200 and something pounds. Where are you at? Where would you like to be? What does your body need to begin to move in that direction? And then continue to grow that over time, and continue kind of just checking in on where you're at and what's the next logical thing. You can do the same with finances. I want to get to a whole Bitcoin. Okay, well, what am I making right now at my job? What do I have left over at the end of the month? If it's not much, is there something I can cut? Is there something that I can do to bring in more income? How am I going to work this out so that I have some disposable income? And then how do I begin to stack some Bitcoin on the side and put it away and plan for my future? Where am I at? What's my health at? Actually go and test, find out, all of your health markers, what red flags are there? What's your weight at? What's your body fat at? All of those things. Okay. What are the tools I have at my disposal to begin picking away at that? Where would I like to be? Where am I? How long do I think it's reasonable to get there? And what does that turn in my day to day? And in terms of being able to also enjoy the day, you're weighing the importance of certain things. So like in terms of finance, is it financially responsible for me to take my whole family down to Disney World and Universal Studios and just do all of the things? I mean, no, but also you're living your life and you're giving your kids memories that they will never forget. And as long as the downstream effect of that moment isn't, we can't make the rent and get food on the table, then that is an acceptable thing. If it's, I'm going to be silly and I'm going to, go and do this. And then, oh crap, I can't afford new clothes for my kids. And, they're eating garbage food. Then you're weighing that, right? And it's the same thing. Like, I think, Michael, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of gave a ratio of like, when you're eating and when you're doing so, my food has been the biggest challenge for me. And so
why is that? Why do you think that is?
I think it's just poor habits from the get-go. Like as soon as I moved out on my own, my grocery shopping was garbage. I also didn't really, I had such a poor understanding of nutrition in the first place. Also, I can't remember the term for it, but like naturally skinny. But if I eat garbage and I don't work out, I'm skinny with a gut, which I think is like the worst.
That's not ideal.
Yeah, like skinny fat. I mean, I can relate to that because I ran like, cross country and track. We talked about this a little bit in college, and like I didn't lift weights, didn't do anything, and that's what I kind of equated it to. But I mean, my diet in college was, trash. My coach put me on a diet actually, because I still managed to gain the freshman 15 while running 70 miles a week. So go figure. But I mean, if you look at pictures of me back in college, I had that, skinny,
The fupa.
skinny fat.
The fupa.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the fupa?
I'm aware of it. Yeah, it's tricky. You've got to make sure that in general and the majority of the time, your habits are working towards your end goals, not your nightmare scenario. And so if, on occasion, it's my kid's birthday or I take them out for ice cream or something like that. Like I'm not going to not let them have an ice cream at Disney or something like that. And like enjoy myself. But at the same time, my average day to day, I'm taking in the right amount of protein. I'm eating the right things. I'm having, I'm having healthy food. I'm not filling my plate with fast food garbage. And that was a change for me because I would, I still have struggles where I fall off a little bit. That's the big thing for me. That is the trickiest bit, is maintaining and monitoring what I am eating. Whereas going to the gym is now, I feel like it's really ingrained in me. So this is kind of like my next hurdle, is to get my day-to-day food intake to be second nature and not a struggle. Because, it was huge when all of a sudden, if I was out of town and I had no accessibility to a gym or anything, the second I got home, my natural state was I'm back in the gym and this feels normal and great. That was like, you know, and that was just in the past like couple of years being able to do that. But the food thing and like I still have to work at that. And, you know, when it falls off, I have to have the mindset of not throwing in the towel and I'll eat crap and I'll get back to it. It's like, no, okay, I deviated and now I correct right back to where I was and continue down the path. And so it's not making excuses. Well, I had a crappy meal, so my next meal will also be crappy. It's like, no, you get back on track.
Yeah. And I think a really easy way to simplify this is what I call the 90-10 rule, right? So 90% of the time you're eating whole foods from as close to nature as possible. And you give yourself, right, that one meal to where you get whatever you want. You get to enjoy yourself. What I tell my clients is to just have that meal outside the house and don't bring any leftovers home. Right? So out of 10 meals, so if you have 3 meals a day, most people are having, you know, a little bit more than that, but 3 meals a day. So a couple times a week, right? 21 meals essentially, if you're doing 3 meals a day times 7 days, a couple of times a week, you're able to enjoy yourself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with allowing your kids to have an ice cream. We go out for a gelato, a nice meal and a gelato, I would say about once a week. It's not the one ice cream. It's not the one meal, right? It's the poor habitual habits and the processed food over and over and over again that leads to inflammation, which is the predecessor to all disease. You know, and so I think one thing to share here, right, is again, we go back to consciousness, right? Most people are so inundated by their screens and by advertisements and bills and kids and wife, right? They don't ever really think about what they're eating, right? It's just like, okay, that's convenient. Let me just grab that and scarf that down. If every single time you got super, super conscious and you asked yourself as you were looking at your food, is this going to fuel or repair my body, or is it going to destroy it and cause inflammation, right? Just an easy question. Are you going to continue over and over again? Like maybe initially like, well, fuck, I already made this, right? I'm not going to waste it, right? But 3 times in, 4 times in, 10 times in, 50 times in, if you're asking that question, it's probably going to get to the place where you have this consciousness where you're like, you know what? Like, I don't want to inflame my body. I don't want disease, because I would argue that the most important decision of your day is what you put on your fork.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. A lot of people just sleepwalk through that every single day. And that's where I was. And I've definitely made major adjustments to that. And the tricky bit is when you don't plan, when you don't have in general, I know what I'm going to be having like each day. If you have no plan, then you're inviting failure.
Yep. What's the quote? What's the quote? Fail to plan, plan to fail, right? Or something like that. Yeah, I think it's fail to plan to fail. And it's so true, right? If you know right when you get up, okay, these are my meals. They're in the refrigerator. They're already prepared, right? It's like, boom, breakfast pull out, boom, dinner pull out, boom, lunch pull out, right? It's like, bam, bam, bam. It's so much easier than, oh shit, I'm busy. It's chaotic. I'm in traffic. Fuck, there's a McDonald's. Let me go get I'm not even going to call it a burger. It's really not a burger. I don't know what it's not really a burger. Anyway, I got your InBody up here. And I wanted to touch on it because it's pretty phenomenal. We've achieved what I call the holy grail of fitnesses. Do you know what the holy grail? Have I talked to you about the holy grail? Do you know the holy grail?
You're talking about, yeah, I mean, the gaining of mass and the reduction in body fat. Yeah, I think.
Yes. So inside the community, I'm doing this. So I'm going to toot my own horn here. Okay. So I've been doing this so much now for the guys in FitScript that I now go by Magic Mike because I'm able to now effectively, through FitScript, the biomarkers, the supplementation, the nutrition training, some peptides and some things, I'm really able now to hit this with precision. So I'm looking at your InBody right now, and you were at the time, you were 158 pounds. You went up to 163 in this InBody, so you gained 5 pounds. But the percentage of body fat actually went down. So you've effectively gained about 4 or so pounds of muscle while dropping body fat, going from 11.7% body fat down to 10. How does that feel?
It's pretty wild. Like I was, every night I'm in morning, you get up and everybody kind of takes that glance in the mirror. I'm like, oh my God, I can see abs. And that was like a hard thing for me to do for years. Like as soon as I got into my 30s was the first time I like sat in the car and I'm like, oh, my stomach's kind of like, oh, just a little bit over the seatbelt. And I was like, I'm awkward. And like, started realizing like, oh, like I can't just eat garbage and have it not affect me anymore. And all through my 30s, when I was like trying to, get in shape, I couldn't get to the point where I could consistently see my abs. And the only times that I was able to attain that prior was in losing weight, which I was already pretty slim. And so I didn't feel good. I just felt starved. I'd be like, oh, I can see abs and I want to pass out. I think that was kind of where it was at. And so now it's like, oh, I'm larger, like mass wise. Again, all through even my 30s, I was kind of like probably weighing around 140 something, somewhere in the 140s typically. Even when I started the program, I think I weighed 148. And so right now I'm probably somewhere between what's on the sheet there, 163 and 165, something like that. But I'm leaner and have more muscle mass than I've ever had in my entire life. And I just turned 40. So that's crazy to me. And so it's like the most progress I've ever been able to make in my entire life.
So I'm looking at you right now, and I remember our first conversation. I'm looking at you, and I see your shoulders popping out. I see the chest. Like I see some mass on you, but it's not like that big, fluffy, bulky, shitty looking mass, right? It's like the solid, lean, carved out mass that looks right. Like, cause there's this bulky look, right? Where you look big in your shirt, but you kind of look like big and fat. And then there's this like bigger, more muscular, more carved out where the shirt kind of like contours your body. And that's what I'm seeing right now.
Dude, I put on last night. I was just kind of relaxing for the night. I was just putting on a different t-shirt that I hadn't worn in a while. It was like this, like an old Bitcoin t-shirt that I had. I put it on and my wife was like, you look fucking ridiculous right now.
Yes. Tell her I said you're welcome.
Yeah, no, she has not minded, that for sure. I think the other night got better tits than me now.
So selfishly here, I have a question. And for all the listeners, this one's for me. So I have come to know that you are on a Bitcoin standard, like you live on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I have been really thinking. So Robert Breedlove has been influential in my life. Brandon, you, I'm around a lot of Bitcoiners now, right? And so, I mean, I am all in. I've been all in, but now I'm like really all in. And I think the next step for me is to figure out how to live on a Bitcoin standard, because I don't love having cash in the bank, right? At any time they can freeze it at any time, right? It's just, I just don't feel confident in the banking system. And so I was watching some content of yours and you were talking about like some credit cards or some things that you can sort of use to, if you're all in Bitcoin, right? And you need effectively dollars because the store doesn't take Bitcoin, that you can maneuver and take your Bitcoin and move it over into fiat and then like use like a Visa or a credit card. Can you walk me through what that's about?
Yeah. So there's a variety of different things. Obviously I'm in Canada and so there's going to be some different tools in the US, but Just thinking US centric for a moment. You guys have some great resources available to you down there. So one of the ones that in terms of being able to pay some bills, and I believe this transfers over south of the border too, but at home, I've got Bitcoin Well available to me. I've known Adam for ages, one of the first Bitcoiners I ever met in person, but Bitcoin Well, it's a place you can buy and sell Bitcoin, but it's also a place that you can, pay bills. And so you can enter billers and say, I want to put this much money on this bill. And then it just pops up a QR code. Okay, pay Bitcoin here. And they cover the rest, which is super awesome. So super useful there. In the States, you have Cash App, and you can get a Cash App card, and that can all link with Bitcoin and fiat. You can switch between Bitcoin and dollars and fund the card and use that. If I'm not mistaken, Strike has a number of options around stuff like that as well. I think some bill payment stuff and maybe a card, but I might be mistaken on that.
I don't think they have a card yet. I've been looking at it, I've been looking for it. But I do know that you can pay your bills in there. I think for me, so I didn't really think about this. So I think I could go to the grocery store effectively, have my Bitcoin in the Cash App, and then ultimately pay with Cash App, right? I mean, that's probably a way that I could do that.
I think you could do it with Fold as well. So Fold has like a debit card, and you can do it with them as well. I don't know if they have a credit card just yet. I think that they've been rolling one out, but I'm pretty sure Fold, it's like essentially just, I don't know, I guess the term's almost like neobank. So like these, like a Cash App, a Fold, a Strike, they're not a bank per se, but you can have money, you can have Bitcoin in there, and you can utilize those tools in order to live on a Bitcoin standard, so to speak. But still, let's face it, right? We live in a fiat world. You got to pay bills in dollars. You got to, some merchants won't accept Bitcoin, but there is a lot of tools that's been lining out here that you can.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the bill and payment side of things. There's if you can get a card attached to an account, you can easily swap around like that. The nice thing with Bitcoin is that obviously if you're funding an account and you want to do it quickly, you can basically keep self-custody of your Bitcoin up until the moment you want to spend it. It takes, especially if you're sending over Lightning, it's like instantaneously in the account and available, and then you can fund your card with it. So you can keep your Bitcoin out of the hands of anybody else until the moment you want to use it, which is great. Outside of that, another really useful tool, and there's a variety of them, but something like BitRefill, also coin cards and the Bitcoin company, all places where you can get gift cards for Bitcoin. And so here at home, when it comes to gassing up the car or getting groceries, things like that, even when I'm just sitting in line at the supermarket, I can quickly fund like a $300 gift card or whatever, and then just scan the barcode as soon as I get up there. And, I've just paid in Bitcoin. It's instantaneous, which is great.
So as a cold card user, right? That's cold storage. Can I effectively set the cold storage, set that up to trigger an actual cold card that I would use in like a restaurant or something? How would that work without having to go into the air gap and like into that whole thing and transfer?
Well, so what you would want is you'd want your cold card to be, your cold card is designed to be purposely difficult to get to, because if you can get to it, it means somebody else can get to it. So you think of that as like, gold stored away in a vault that you're not trying to spend. And then your hot wallets would be your day-to-day, I've got it, I can see it on my phone. And so like, you maybe have, a few $100, $1,000, whatever it may be, but you got a chunk of change available to you for day to day. And this would be in a Lightning wallet on your phone or something like that. So like, an example would be like Aqua Wallet. Some people like Phoenix, some people like, you're using Strike. Of course, if you're on Strike, it's a custodial service, but it still functions as a regular Bitcoin Lightning wallet as well. And for day-to-day spending cash, I think that's totally reasonable and fine, right? And so what you would in practice be doing, and what I typically do, I get paid in Bitcoin. And so every time I get paid, an invoice comes in, it lands, and most of it I have automated to go directly into cold storage. And so if I need some money from cold storage, I typically just, one quick little, I'll go and I'll say, okay, I'm going to peel off $1,000 for whatever I need, and I'll put it into a wallet on my phone, a hot wallet, so I can go and get my day-to-day stuff. And I just have it accessible to me and just kind of just like I would keep cash in my pocket. So yeah, you just keep them separate. You'd have a day-to-day wallet. You'd have your long-term cold storage savings, and you can do it like that. If somebody pays me in Lightning, which is anybody watching that's like, oh, what are these terms? Regular Bitcoin transaction, a little bit slower, fees a little bit higher. Lightning transaction, fast, cheap, day-to-day spending, getting your coffee. So if somebody pays me in Lightning, it usually just comes directly into my Lightning wallet, and I just use it for day-to-day stuff. So, yeah.
That's good stuff.
Now, Ben, you talked a little bit about, having Bitcoin in cold storage where like nobody touches it. Now, I think this is a good parallel between essentially taking ownership of your health, taking ownership of your life, essentially that sovereign individual thesis. So I'd love to hear you kind of line that out and just the parallels between, being able to essentially, especially with what you went through with up in Canada, for those who don't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about, the truckers convoy and, basically being able to take ownership of your life.
Yeah. So obviously in Canada, we had the Canadian trucker protest a few years back. It was in response to, as the world was opening up, Canada was getting more and more into lockdowns and more restrictions. And it just so happened that the Canadian long haul truckers were the first ones to crack and be like, this is enough. We're done with this. And so they did a big convoy across the country, and that ended in Ottawa, the nation's capital. And it was the largest protest in Canadian history. And so there were a lot of people that were donating to the truckers, and things escalated very quickly. The entire protest basically took place over the course from the beginning of the convoy to getting to Ottawa to the protest being in the streets for however long. It happened over the course of like 2.5 to 3 weeks. And we went from, oh, there's a convoy starting, to, oh, they are literally locking down bank accounts, and they passed a light version of martial law. Like, they basically were able to do whatever they wanted. And in practice, it meant that, hey, you're at the protest, we see your truck and your business and whatever, and shut down your credit cards, revoke your auto insurance, shut down your bank account. You're not allowed to do anything. Oh, the donations coming through GoFundMe and Give, Send, Go, we're gonna seize those. Those are gonna go back. Oh, Give, Send, Go didn't listen to us and still sent money to a Canadian bank so they could access it. We're gonna seize those and turn that off, and all of this. And I was the person that was asked, hey, can you set up a page so that they can accept Bitcoin donations as well? And it was done before all the shit started hitting the fan. And so we thought maybe we get a few $1,000. But then all of the money started getting seized, and the bank accounts started getting shut down, and no donations. I never getting this.
Wow.
Yeah. And so as soon as people realized that no fiat money was getting where it needed to be, the influx of Bitcoin donations was crazy. And actually, I'll do show and tell here because I've got something cool on my shelf.
I did not know about this. Wow.
Yeah, Ben actually got named, but you got named in a big lawsuit. I don't know if you could talk about that, if it's all.
Yes, there's the footnote states, I wasn't a defendant, but as a possible custodian. So we had a multi-sig wallet, which is anybody that's not technically savvy. Think of a digital vault that requires multiple keys. So I had a key, Jeff Booth, Greg Foss, BJ Dichter, and another guy whose pseudonym is Nobody Caribou, who's in Ottawa. And so we were kind of the guardians of these donations. And so the way I was doing it, I was running a node, a lightning node, and running everything through and kind of putting things through into the multisig. And this is the node that was running on my shelf that relayed all of the lightning transactions for the trucker protest. And so I built it myself.
So cool.
And the crazy part is, as I was doing a show at that time, over the course of that protest, $1.3 million went through this thing.
Wow.
On my shelf, as I had to feign being okay and not stressed at all.
Well, you couldn't, you weren't there's no way you could have accessed it by yourself.
What? Yeah, I mean, it was once, yeah, and it still wasn't great knowing that, the Canadian government was kicking open doors.
Got it. Yeah.
Cuts and everything. And so I didn't know how far it was going to go because it went very far, very quickly. From the beginning of a protest to them saying, hey, bank accounts are no longer yours and all that stuff. And so the tail end of it, we ran into a bug for the last little bit of Bitcoin that was being given out with the multisig wallet. There's a little technical, but like there's a private chat built into the wallet. And the way when you want to do a transaction, it basically presents it to the private chat of all the key holders. And then you need for us, we needed 3 key holders to say, yes, this is okay in order for it to be spent. And so this prevents, in practice, it prevents somebody going and kicking in one person's door and getting access to the funds. But the problem is the private chat function had a bug and it broke. So as we were trying to get the last few Bitcoin out, somebody would say, okay, now we're going to send this amount of Bitcoin to this pre-funded wallet that we'll hand out. And the chat message wasn't going through. And so the wallet for a time wasn't working. So what we had to do is we actually had to troubleshoot and get one person to have custody of the remaining funds. And lo and behold, the RCMP kicked in that person's door. And so that money is now sitting in a legal escrow that is just awaiting the outcome of that lawsuit that you mentioned. But through it all, 70% of all the donations got directly into the hands of truckers. 1.3 million went through this thing. And it was the only digital donation mechanism that worked at all during time. And had we done a few different steps, 100% of it would have gotten to the right people.
I'm buying more Bitcoin.
Yeah. So,
I'm buying more Bitcoin.
I think this is important to stress because when you say, hey, I don't trust the bank accounts, a lot of people think, we're the United States, we're perfectly fine. Canada's right north of us, right? You would think that stuff like this would not happen anywhere close to home. But the reality is it very well could. I mean, there's, celebrities that have had their bank accounts frozen for saying crazy things, sure. But, the average person won't have that happen. Well, look what happened with Ben in the Great White North there. And then, I think the other kind of craziness that we're seeing, around is, we're having the state of New York. I don't know if you saw this, Ben. It kind of got broke yesterday, but the state of New York is now issuing, I think, to like 160 low income people, like $12,000 in this specific, crypto stable coin, which also, a bunch of other people would think, all right, hey, it's the government trying to help us out. Nothing.
And government is not here to help you.
Exactly. So, yeah, you said 70% made it to the truckers. Why was it Bitcoin specific and not something else?
So, this is a good question because I imagine, you're going to have people that are not Bitcoiners and don't really understand the dynamic there. Why not other cryptocurrencies and all of this stuff? When you have, part of it is I had to ask myself after a certain amount of time, why am I here? What brought me here? Why am I interested in Bitcoin in the first place? And, one, of course, is, you want to be able to save money that will be able to purchase you more in the future as opposed to less. But in general, I I basically distill it down to, I want a global censorship resistant sound money that nobody can fuck with. And when I hold Bitcoin up against other things that have come since, none of those things check all the boxes necessary to guarantee those qualities for me. So, is it decentralized, or can a central party change the underlying rules? Like, one of the things I want is censorship resistance and sound money. Nobody can print more of it. How certain am I that those things are those promises, those underlying rules, the very foundation of the whole thing, how certain am I that those rules are not going to change? And when you look at everything else, the certainty is far, far less. Some of them just outright are scams built to enrich the founders. Others of them appear to have an air of legitimacy. But when I look at them and I truly ask, like, how decentralized, how censorship resistant is this? It's not even close. Even like, you look at the top cryptocurrencies, number one is Bitcoin. What's number two? It's Ethereum. I mean, I've worked at exchanges where, we had to send out emails. This was like years ago. We had to send out emails of like important things, and Ethereum was on this exchange. And so I had to put together the email of like, oh, they're hard forking, which means they're changing the underlying rules. So it's going to be offline for a little bit. And then they did. And then they're like, shit, we forgot to do something. We need to hard fork it again. So then they changed the other underlying rules again a week later. And normally, like with Bitcoin, if somebody tried to do that, that means anybody running a node, which anybody can, even just on a laptop, every person simultaneously has to update. Otherwise, they're on a different network. With Ethereum, they were able to do it twice in like a week with no major issues, which indicates to me that nobody's running a node and actually running the rules themselves. It's just like a few bros on AWS running it in the cloud, and they're able to like call up their buddies and be like, hey, we screwed up, just update again next week. Cool. All right. Everything's still going good. That's the same as like the banking infrastructure. It's like a few people just update your system. Like the few head banks, go ahead, update your system. We're good. Like, as opposed to like, Bitcoin by design is supposed to be like herding cats. If it's easy to make changes, it's not decentralized. So this is kind of the reason why I gravitate just to Bitcoin. And the last point I'll make is, people talk about, well, I missed the boat. Bitcoin's too expensive now. Do you know how many fucking times I said I missed the boat before I actually started accumulating Bitcoin? I saw it at double-digit prices, seeing it like $15. I saw it at $100. I saw it at $1,000. It took from 10 to 1,000 to even think about reading about it. And then I was like, is this a Ponzi scheme or what's going on? And then you start reading, oh, this can't possibly work. This can't possibly be a thing. You try to poke holes in it, and then over time you realize, like, this is pretty bulletproof. And then you start to dissect the price, and you realize that when you're looking at it in dollar terms, you're already, and thinking it's too much, you already don't understand dollars. There is infinite dollars. Think of the bailouts in 2008. The shocking numbers of money printing back then were hundreds of billions of dollars. If I saw hundreds of billions of dollars today in anything government related, I don't even sneeze at it. You don't care. It would take double-digit trillions to now make my eyebrows raise.
Crazy. Yep. So Ben, why Bitcoin over stocks, right? So we've talked about other cryptocurrencies. Why, right? Why not just invest in Tesla or Apple or Amazon? Why Bitcoin?
So I think that the stock market, while I think that people will continue in the future to buy stock in companies that they believe in, I think that, as we said earlier, people are forced to invest nowadays just to escape their crappy money. And so when you look at the valuations of some of these stocks, especially that are valued like, 50 times revenue, right? Like it's like a company is worth 50 times the money it's actually making right now. And so you're pricing that into the future saying like, I'm buying this now at technically 50 times what it should be worth in hopes that it'll get there, or in hopes that people will keep on pumping the price because they have nowhere else to put their money. I think that over time, when people can just earn money and save money as Bitcoin, and Bitcoin just is their money, less people are going to just knee-jerk throw money at other investments. They will only throw money at investments when they truly believe in the thing. And so I think companies are going to have to work harder to have a compelling case for people to park their Bitcoin with the company, because not only do you have to do better than staying flat, you have to do better than the whole of like human productivity. Like how much more efficient do we get at making stuff every year? Because that's how much more your Bitcoin will buy. It's static. There's the same amount. If we get better at making stuff, you'll be able to purchase more. So you need to outpace, the average human ingenuity over that period of time. So like, do you believe in this? Is this a really good idea? Is this an incredible team of people building something super important that people want? Maybe it's worth investing in. But I don't think people are just going to throw money passively into funds that they don't even know what they own.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I think that this is a point that that really blew my mind when I really took a step back and looked at it. Is if you look at the S&P 500, especially right now, we're having the best 6-month period in S&P 500 history. We just went from like the April lows to right now, I think we're up like 35, 36%, which is just insane for an index. But if you take a step back and look at the S&P 500 compared to the overall money supply, what you were saying earlier, since the year 2000, we've had 2008 where they printed a crap load of money. We have 2020 where they printed a crap load of money. The S&P 500 is actually down percentage points when you compare from the year 2000 to right now on just the M2 money supply.
Wow.
Which basically means if you put it in an index fund where people are passively in, it's not even keeping up with inflation, which is what the government is, touting out that we're at like 2.8% or whatever it is right now. So in reality, investing the money is not keeping up with your overall purchasing power. And the only thing that's actually, in reality, probably keeping up with purchasing power is Bitcoin. And I think what really flipped it on the script with me was what we've been kind of lining out this whole time is just changing the mindset. Because what you said earlier was like, all right, you look at Bitcoin, it's too volatile. Well, reality, Bitcoin is not volatile. It's the underlying currency. We know 450 Bitcoin is mined every single day. That's going to happen until the next halving, then that gets cut in half. But the reality is we don't know how much the underlying dollar is going to be because they're just going to be printing it whenever Jerome Powell goes out and says something ridiculous. You'll see the stock market shoot up. So little tweaks of what we're being told can affect your overall financial well-being. And so that's why most people, I think, just in turn tune it out and think about the now because, hey, this beer that I have today might be worth $5 today. It might be worth $5.25 tomorrow. So I'll just drink this beer now and have this early satisfaction. And I think that's where all of this kind of ties together is that you don't want to think about it because you already know, you know what? It's easier to just give up because you're stuck in that hamster wheel.
Can't get out.
Can't get out.
I mean, suffocated. Yeah.
You can't plan for the future. Like when you have a stable currency that actually can accrue value, it's much easier to plan for the future, right? When you can just say, I'm just going to earn my money and save, then you actually have a plan. But as the money has gotten worse and worse, and a lot of assets are actually completely out of reach for people, the average person can't get a home now. You don't plan for the future at all, and you just buy garbage. And furthermore, because the people that do have disposable income are forced to invest and just throw money into funds wherever, what ends up happening is capital isn't being allocated in an efficient way. It's just being thrown wherever because everything is going to go up in relation to the dollar. It doesn't even matter where it is as long as it's in something. And so I think that we're actually getting the money has made us less efficient. I think that we're putting money into things that are not benefiting society at all. And as you said, like in comparison to the money supply, the S&P 500 is down because like, what the hell are we investing in? Like how many of those companies are actually, truly productive and building things that are worthwhile versus they're just kind of in there because people pump them up because where else are they going to put their money?
Mm-hmm. Powerful. I've got a few questions and then we'll wrap this up. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
So if someone has not bought any Bitcoin, they're ready to start buying Bitcoin, where do they go? And what is your advice? Are they putting all their money into Bitcoin today? Are they dollar cost averaging? What does that look like? So let's just say you're going to give your son some advice today. What kind of advice do you give your son who is ready to make his first Bitcoin purchase?
Yeah. So, obviously I imagine there's going to be people kind of watching this jurisdictionally from kind of around the world. So where you get your Bitcoin is going to depend where you live. So, if you're outside of the US and Canada, then some of the things I mentioned here may not be available to you. So just look locally and see what you got. What I would say is try to get your Bitcoin from a company that deals in specifically Bitcoin. And the reason for that is if you go to what I would refer to as a shitcoin casino, it will be exactly that. You're going to have scrolling marquees. This went up this much today. This went down this much. And all they're trying to do is get you to buy and sell and trade and do all this stuff because they make their money on the fees every time you trade. If you go to a Bitcoin company, they're going to say, we have Bitcoin. Would you like it? And then you purchase it and you take self-custody of it. So you want a platform that will allow you to buy Bitcoin specifically and allow you to get it into your own self-custody. So for you to be able to hold it yourself, easily. And so in Canada, I really like Bitcoin Well. They're awesome. They're also available in the States. The other one in Canada, Bull Bitcoin, love those guys. They're great. Those are kind of the only two places I ever point people to in Canada. In the US, south of the border, yes, you've got Bitcoin Well. You've also got Strike. And I know that you're using Strike, and I love Jack Mallers, and they're awesome. The other one I'd mentioned in the States also is River. River is really good too. I like them quite a bit. So those are kind of the ones that I tend to point people towards. In terms of, do you just shove it all in? Do you DCA? Do you do whatever? I mean, if you've got a lump sum of cash sitting there collecting dust and you want to own Bitcoin, I wouldn't be trying to time it. I would just say, get the Bitcoin that you want to get. If, as we said, there's always going to be more dollars. We also said that Bitcoin is volatile. You may buy it and it may dip afterwards, but does it really matter if you know that there's infinite dollars forever moving forward? It will at some point be higher than when you bought it.
And I also think too, right? Like if it's just sitting in your bank and it's your savings, right? And it's not like, oh, I need to pay my rent tomorrow with this money, or I need to pay my bills tomorrow with this money. Like it's moving your savings, which is there, right? As a savings account. I think that's one thing. I think, right, coming all in with some money that you may need in the next 2, 3, 4 months, that may be something that you want to think about, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you got to take a look at your financial situation. One, are you making ends meet month to month? Like you shouldn't be taking money that is your rent money and saying, I'm going to pile it into Bitcoin. And if it dips, I can't make rent. That's not how this works. Like for me, I earn Bitcoin. I know what I earn every month. At the beginning of the month, I pay the bills. And then I'm not even really subject to the fluctuation when it comes to my bills. They come in, they're paid, and then my savings is subject to fluctuation, which means any additional purchases I do after that, if it's just oh, I want to go shopping or I want to do something fun with my wife, go out on a date. That's going to be subject to the price fluctuation there. And it also helps inform your decision making. So if Bitcoin goes down and you wanted to buy like a PlayStation or something like that, and you're like, no, Bitcoin's
Good example.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to be spending more money on this expensive thing that I like. You know, your intuition of maybe I should wait till Bitcoin's higher is actually the right one. It's a reasonable one to have of like, I don't need this right now. Bitcoin is down. I will put off this purchase.
Yeah.
And so like, as long as you're paying your bills, that's the important thing. And then, if Bitcoin is down, then hold off on something if you want to. The other thing I'll mention too, just in terms of, lump sum versus DCA is, again, if you just got savings sitting there and the idea is I want my savings to be Bitcoin, make your savings Bitcoin. Okay. But I imagine moving forwards, you continue to add to your savings. And so that becomes your DCA. That becomes your, okay, at the end of every month, I've got a little left over that I don't want to spend on, going out or whatever. I'm going to put that money into Bitcoin. And so regardless of what the price is doing, you pay no attention to that. You just say, this is a long-term thing. I've got extra money left that I want for savings. I buy whatever amount of Bitcoin I can get. It goes into savings. I ignore it.
Yeah. I've had, so I'm a DCAer. I've been successful that way. What about you?
Yeah, DCA, and now I earn some in Bitcoin as well. Some of my sponsors, probably similar to Ben on my podcast, they pay me in Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're going to accept Bitcoin. Yeah, man. Ben, you have to help me set up Bitcoin for FitScript for sure. We have to do that.
Yeah, well, so I know just the way that you should do it.
I love it. We'll talk offline for that. So Bitcoin right now, I'm looking at it, is 119,544.08. Now I know you are not a prediction guy. I know that's not your thing. But for the listeners, let's just toss something out there. So short term, within 12 months, what's your Bitcoin prediction? And then 5 years from today, what's your Bitcoin prediction?
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, so I was talking about this last night on the show, and we kind of see this just in terms of the short term. Just looking historically, something unique happened in September this year that has only happened a few times before. Typically, September has historically been the worst month for Bitcoin price action, and it has regularly been down for September. It's only been up before this year. It's only been up 4 times in September for its entire history. This was another up month for September, which again has not happened often. When we look historically, any time that Bitcoin has been up in September, the last quarter of the year has been really good.
Interesting. A lot of X accounts were calling for a red September. The feed was just like, it's going down, it's crashing, we're going to 93K.
Yeah. So, I mean, we ended up for September. And so when you look historically, if you average out all the years that it was up in September, and if history were to repeat itself, then a cumulative 50% rally before the end of the year.
50%.
Yeah.
That's what it said, 180K.
Somewhere in that realm.
I'm in.
Again, not saying that this for sure would happen, but if history is an indicator, like if it followed the same trajectory as those years that we had in up September, it would look something like that. I think it's interesting because we've been on these kind of 4-year cycles based on the halving when the new supply gets reduced coming into the market. And that had a huge effect, especially in the early years and resulted in huge upswings subsequently. And it still does have an effect. But because 95% of all Bitcoin have now been mined, that reduction in new supply coming into the market has less of an impact than it used to. And I think the main thing that is now going to be driving the price moving forward is how many people get it and how much capital are those people allocating to it. And right now, I mean, the news over the past few years has been insane you have institutions, you have nation states, and you have just in general high net worth individuals that are coming into this thing and really seeing the writing on the wall as it comes to the economy, as it comes to, I mean, the word fiat is in your everyday vernacular now. People know what the word fiat means, which indicates that they understand how bad it is. And so I think that when a tipping point of people understand it, which seems to be close, which seems to be in the next few years now, there was this idea of diminishing returns. Every cycle it would go up, not as high percentage. I think we're kind of on that S curve where it goes up and then it kind of levels off and then wham, flies up again. And I think the wham comes when people get it. And this is a hard thing because all the price action before this has been programmatic, more or less, right? Oh, the halving happens. Price is going to go up the year after. This cycle has been very different. We had a new all-time high before the halving. It's been kind of just a steady grind up. We haven't had market like massive drops.
No euphoria yet either.
And no euphoria. Like I'm looking at it, we're damn near 120K and I feel dead inside.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Are you excited for the wham? He said that there's a wham, that there could be a wham.
I mean, hey, Ben, I'm a moon boy, as you know, dude. So I think we're going up too. So I'm happy to hear that you're not one of the, because I think that's where we're at. We get this consensus. People are saying, diminishing returns, 150K, 180K, maybe is a top for this cycle. But I mean, you look at Bitcoin on exchanges, we have like 2.2 million or so. We've got like 155 left on like over the counter, which is the big players basically going to buy all this Bitcoin. I mean, I think the supply shock at this point is inevitable just because we never seen anything scarce like Bitcoin.
I don't think anybody knows, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say the wham that you're talking about, that wham. I'm going to be dreaming about that wham.
Yeah. I mean, when that hits, like you've got to remember 21 million Bitcoin. There are more than double that amount of millionaires on Earth.
Yep.
Right?
Was there like 66 millionaires or 67 millionaires or something like that?
Yeah. And I mean, now the money is so bad that the term millionaire doesn't even mean anything.
It doesn't. It's so true.
You say millionaire and you're like, okay, so you can afford a house?
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, man, being a millionaire was the dream. I'm going to be a millionaire someday. Now you're like, that's not going to do too much.
Yeah, there's 62 million millionaires in the world right now globally. So the average person interacts with at least one millionaire every month. So it's not super uncommon. And then, to your point on Bitcoin, there's 13 million wallets that have 1 million Satoshis or 0.01 Bitcoin comparatively, which is like $1,200 right now. So there's more people that have $1 million net worth than have $1,200 worth of Bitcoin. So you're not too late.
So the BAM, so the wham, not the BAM, the BAM. I mean, the BAM, I think a BAM would be good. BAM, wham. The wham happens. 5 years, the wham happens. Where is Bitcoin in 5 years, Ben? And if the wham happens, where is Bitcoin in 5 years, Brandon?
I think if the wham happens, and I do think that this is something that could come to fruition in the next 5 years where, because so much has happened just on people, the treasury company push, which, I'm not like all in on the treasury company thing, but like, I do think that it's a good idea, as with a person, if you have excess capital, to have it in money nobody can print. So I think that's a good thing. But between institutions, ETFs, nation states, all of this stuff, people coming on and realizing this is important and then actually seeing performance from it, when that becomes maybe we should investigate this, to we have to be allocated to this, otherwise we're doing disservice to our clients. We have $1 million Bitcoin easy, right? Like that's a 10x from here. There's so much minimal exposure comparatively. And like, when you look at what gold did from the moment, like over the coming decade following it, getting its first ETF and all of that. I could easily see $1 million Bitcoin. I'm not saying that for sure 2030 it's $1 million, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. What about you? The wham.
Yeah.
The wham happens. USNL.
I'm with you, Ben. I think if we don't hit $1 million of Bitcoin, that's something disappointing. Like if you look
$1 million, not this cycle, but in 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years for sure. I mean, at least. I'm of the belief we might hit it a little bit sooner because I think once you see that euphoria, that kind of the adoption start to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to guys like Jeff Booth, who, you referenced earlier, I had him on my podcast and he said basically in January when I spoke with him that if you were to price Bitcoin in just the overall circular money supply right now, it's $43 million a coin.
Yeah.
If you just divide everything by 21 million. So the underlying currency, we're going to lower interest rates. We're going to basically flood the system. At this point, I mean, the possibilities are endless just because of so many people starting to realize about Bitcoin. So,
I don't know jack shit compared to you two when it comes to Bitcoin. I'm going to make my prediction.
All right, let's hear it.
Not that anybody should listen or care. I think we're headed in the near term. I think we're headed to 150K. And I think that's going to bring some euphoria. And I think it crashes to about 100 to 110 to shake off all of it. Like that's the shake them all off. And then I think we launch into, 200, 250 Q1 of next year. I think this cycle extends just based on to supply ETFs and just sort of some of the delays that I think have happened as a result of the war and tariffs and just kind of those things. That's my 2 cents. My 2 Satoshis, buck cents. We're not talking about cents on this podcast. That's my 2 Satoshis.
One of the most bullish things would be to see things extend into next year and even have like marginal upward next year would be pretty notable.
I agree.
Because that would indicate that the days of like really extensive, horrible bear markets, may be dwindling.
Yeah.
And it becomes just like a slow, steady, but meaningful grind, towards, more generational wealth.
I'm feeling that. So that was 1 out of the 3 questions. I got 2 more for you. And then we'll wrap it up. And all of your social handles will be in the notes. Again, for those of you that want to learn, I mean, this guy is a legend when it comes to teaching people about Bitcoin. In fact, I don't think that there's anybody better in this space to teach you about Bitcoin than Ben here. You're going to get your labs done. So you're headed to Tennessee. We just ordered your FitScript labs. This is going to be your retest, your 6-month retest. Based on how you feel, how you look, right? Cognitive function, energy. What do you think, or what do you hope to see on your new set of labs at the 6-month mark?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So, I'm looking at my labs right now, and so a couple things that were in need of support on my markers. Vitamin D, so that was an important one. DHEA, which Michael, can you give like a Cliff's Notes of what DHEA?
I mean, it's essentially another hormone, right? And I would say 9 out of 10 guys are deficient in that. Are deficient in DHEA. Now it's weird because in Canada it's like hard to get. We can buy it here, but you can't buy it there. But I would say 90%, if not more, of the men coming through that were running labs are deficient in DHEA.
I had some kidney stuff that wasn't like a kidney issue, but it was downstream of some of the other things that came out. Hydration was a big one for me, and then of course testosterone. We didn't get to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm going to be completely transparent about my tests, because I thought my tests were going to be amazing when I did my first blood test, and I'm thinking, okay, I go to the gym relatively often. I eat pretty well. I have my steak. I do all that. And I'm active, so I'll be pretty good. And there's kind of these thresholds. There's like optimal, which, FitScript is all about. Let's get you to optimal. There's the range where a doctor would be like, yeah, you're fine. there's a range where it'd be like, you're a little low. And then there's bad. And I was on the cusp of bad. Like that's how poorly I was in that.
Are you okay with if we share a glimpse of your labs? Are you okay with that? Just like a little piece of it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Because I think testosterone's a big one. And I think you just nailed it, right? It's like the doctor is going to tell you you're fine as long as you're 300 to like 800 or 900. He's going to say that's normal at 300. I don't know if you know, or if you've ever walked around, and maybe this was prior to you getting on some TRT, which we'll talk about, but you feel like death walking around at 300 testosterone.
Yeah. I was tired. I couldn't focus. And the other thing was, I had extreme anxiety about the dumbest things. And I started getting extreme anxiety on flights. And so after the testing there, like I realized how bad it was. And I'm thinking, I'm doing all of the right things and I'm still this low, which to me indicates a further indication of how bad our food supply and the products and the things that like they all promote more estrogen and kill testosterone. And so, the first, 3, 4, even, I think the first 4 months of FitScript, I just had supplements and did the workout regime, and I need leaps and bounds. But testosterone was a concern the entire time. So I took my time and kind of like mulled over what I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, in and around just before summer, I'm going to say in and around June, I think I said, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm 40. I'm done having kids. I'm going to have go testosterone. And so, first of all, in terms of just like general quality of life, the flight anxiety is fucking gone.
Amazing.
Yeah. It was, and I would have, before I was having weird mood swings and being really irrational about things that I normally never would be. And that is gone. My demeanor, my temper is, I feel like I have control again.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And I think it's important. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, and then just beyond that, like there's a degree of confidence that comes with it too. Like I started obviously being able to do more stuff in the gym because I had normal testosterone levels. And like, let's be clear, like there's like extreme bodybuilders that are, and you said this too, like people that go to the extreme and are maybe like abusing it and having like 10x what you should have versus like being at that optimal level. And that's what I wanted to attain, is I just wanted to be at the optimal level where like, this is kind of, where a solid human male should be sitting. And holy shit, do I ever feel better. And it's just so many things have helped. Libido's a little crazy.
Your wife must love me. I'm just kidding.
So that changed a bunch there too. But like, yeah, just in general, that has helped a ton. But even before doing that, again, like I think earlier in the episode, you're going to show my first check-in, my first updated picture. That was before any testosterone.
Yeah. And I think you really hit some great points. First things first, I mean, we're not pushing testosterone down your throat. Like, it wasn't the first thing I told you. It's not the first thing we tell any of our clients. It is an option. We can provide that. We can provide the highest quality, and we can do it in a way where we're hitting the optimal testosterone. And I would argue that there's not 1 out of 10 guys walking around with what we would call optimal testosterone. Crazy stat. 20-year-olds today are walking around with the testosterone of a 70-year-old in the 1970s. And I think that's by design. And you'll watch some of our other episodes. You'll watch our previous episode. Like we're not going to go down the rabbit hole today about men and testosterone and it being under attack. The point I'm trying to make is, if you're going to do it, you need to plug the foundation, like Ben said, right? He was doing all of the right things. In fact, he came in, and for the first 4 months, he was doing the supplements, the training, the nutrition based on his labs, based on his fit script, right? And then made the decision, right? Age comes into play, the fact that he's not going to have kids. How is he feeling? What's his quality of life, right? Is he ready for it? And he made that decision. I gave him the information, and then he did some research, talked to Dr. Jess, which is our hormone doctor who's part of the team, and then came to the conclusion on his own. But I just want to preface this by saying that we're not pushing our men to be on testosterone. We're saying, here's the foundation. Here's what you need to do based on your labs. First and foremost, plug the nutrient deficiencies, get your nutrition right, get your sleep right, get your gut health optimized. And then, okay, cool, we do have this for the men that are ready to make that decision, because it's a lifelong decision, Ben. You don't go on this stuff and want to come off, because optimal testosterone is something that you would never want to live without once you've experienced it.
Yeah. And the one other thing I'll say too is you don't go in and say, I'm doing everything else poorly, but then I'll just have testosterone and I'll fix everything. It's not a band. Like, you don't just like slap on a Band-Aid,
right,
and everything's all good. You have to fix and make sure the foundation is solid.
Yep.
And if you're still not attaining kind of the optimal level for whatever reason, and again, there's a whole rabbit hole of like our crappy food and products and all the stuff that can impact that. But if you're not getting to where you want to be, then it's an option after that. And I made sure that I got to where I could attain, and I kind of bumped up against that, I did surpass an old plateau with my first 4 months in FitScript. And then I felt myself start to plateau again. I was like, okay, so this is kind of where I'm at. And my testosterone is still, that's kind of where I'm lacking. I still have all this anxiety. I still have these other things. Can I address them now?
Yep.
And I made the call. And for me, I'm super glad that I did, because I feel like a million.
And I will say this, and I'm really, really happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear your progress, see your progress. You've been an absolute joy to work with as a client, but also as a friend. You've become a dear friend of mine, and I just think the world of you. I think you are, you're transparent in everything that you do. You're a man of ethics and morality. You're just a good human here to serve humanity, and it's just been a pleasure. The one thing that I'll share based on what you just said about how it was the right decision for you, that has been the case 100% of the time for the guys who have gone down that path with us. Not every guy goes down that path, but for the guys who have gone down that path, right, plug the foundation, followed their fit script, and have made the decision, they're all saying exactly what you have said, what I say, that it is the absolute best decision that I've ever made. So,
I feel better today than I have at any point in my history in terms of my personal fitness.
That makes me so happy. Yeah.
And I would have said the same thing before starting the TRT as well, because I had attained more than I could have prior to the program. Just the filling in the gaps and understanding kind of what was going on with my body, what I needed to do to get to that next level was already enough of a push. And then I made the call, hey, I think it's time, and I'm glad.
Yeah. I'm interested and excited to see your next set of labs. We'll have you back on the show. My final question for you is a deep one, right? So, Ben, we all have to transition into whatever is next. If it's in my power, I'm going to keep you alive as long as I possibly can. That's what we're going to do at FitScript, right? We're here to increase health span and lifespan, right? Health span is the quality of years that you live, and lifespan is the amount of years that you live. And part of what we're doing at FitScript, right? Like, I've chosen to live until I'm 125, and anybody that is close to me, my brothers, my blood brother, hopefully he comes around, but you as a brother, and Brandon, and anybody that's in the program, they become brothers and family to me. And it's my duty now to help all of you max out life from a health perspective. At some point, we do have to transition into whatever's next. And so let's just, for the people listening here, you're gone now. You've had to transition into whatever's next. I've kept you alive as long as I possibly can. You're 150. You still got the swag and you still got the blonde streak, but you've got to go now. How do you want to be remembered?
That's a good question. As a good husband and father, that provided and brought along with that a lot of good memories, and taught a lot of good lessons. But also as I would love to, even if people don't specifically remember me, but I would love to have a period of time that people look back to and people say, damn, a lot of people learned how to be self-sovereign with their money in that period of time. And I would love to have contributed to a large chunk of that. So that I think that would be my answer. Helping people take more personal responsibility, as it comes to their personal finances and their self-sovereignty.
And I think now, because you're so transparent and outlandish with your health journey, right? Posting about it, I think that you're going to have a lot of people who latch on to you for that too. I mean, you're a trusted source. You have a loyal, dedicated following, right? It's like, okay, here's self-sovereignty on the wealth side. Here's self-sovereignty on the health side. I'm going to imagine that you're going to lead a lot of people down that path too.
I hope so. And one of the things I'm most bullish on right now is Bitcoiners getting ripped.
Yes.
There's a great meme. There's a great meme of like 3 just like absolutely jacked bros on laptops typing to like a skinny, like little, like emaciated kid. And they're like giving him, like, the meme is like they're teaching him how to Bitcoin. In one of them that I saw, like, don't worry, bro, self-custody is easy. No problem, King. You got this. Just boot up the cold card and like, and it's all these guys. They're just like this wide and like, it's like on their little laptop talking to this guy, and it's like a no coiner that's just learning the ropes for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoiners are going to become the meme. It'll just be like, everybody's going to be like, God, why are all those Bitcoiners so rich and jacked?
Rich, ripped, and rare. Yeah.
I think that becomes the meme. It's just going to be like you go to a Bitcoin conference and they don't even need security because everybody's so huge.
Like, just do the not. What up? We will finish there. I want to say one thing. This year has been amazing. And you, Ben, meeting you and building this relationship has arguably been one of the best things that ever happened to me. I just want you to know that. You are an important person to me, and an important person in this world to a lot of people. So I just want to thank you for your selflessness, for your ongoing selflessness in your community through your teachings and your video and your content. But this is you in real life. As I've gotten to know you, this is who Ben is. And it's important because oftentimes as influencers, right, people see you behind a lens, and a lot of influencers have a mask on. Ben, you don't have a mask on. You are who you are through and through. And I think that it's important for everybody to know. And you are a blessing. And I'm just super grateful to have you in my life.
Thanks, man. I just super kind of you, and ditto. Like you've definitely put me down a path where, and I always felt like, okay, I'll get to that wall, and then I'm just kind of stuck there. And now that I've hurdled over that wall, it's kind of cool to not know yet what I'm capable of.
Yeah, and only 6 months. We still got a ways to go. 6 months turns into 6 years, and we've got a lot of really cool things that we haven't even done yet.
Yeah. So I'm super excited, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, thank you guys.
All right, so Ben, where can everyone find you? We will put all of your handles in the show notes below. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, for the channel, YouTube, just search BTC Sessions. You find me there. I'm on X at BTC Sessions. If you're on Nostr, which is a censorship resistant form of social media, you can find me, BTC Sessions at getlb.com is an easy way to look me up. And then if you're brand new in the Bitcoin space and you just need something kind of nicely curated for you, like a wallet, some hardware, and just kind of some of the basics and like a trajectory to follow, go to btcsessions.ca/learn. And there's just like a nice Bitcoin 0 to hero page and step-by-step videos of like every major skill. Start with one. Once you get that one and you feel comfortable, move on to the next. If you did that for like a few months, going very slowly and just taking your time, you'll have more skills than your average Bitcoiner.
Amazing. That was a fire episode. Well done.
Yeah.
That is the epitome of what a decentralized human is.
Ben, you're a legend, man. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thanks, guys. This was great. I loved your setup too. I'm super stoked for these episodes to start dropping.